So have you noticed that there's just something about games? I know there always was for me. When I was growing up, I was obsessed with the idea of games. I was particularly obsessed with the idea of the Nintendo 64. And I was so obsessed with it, I wasn't allowed to have them at home, which was probably a smart decision considering that one time I took a Nintendo 64 controller that wasn't hooked up to anything, and I went and I sat in a corner and I closed my eyes and I pretended that I was playing the Nintendo 64 because it was just so exciting. And you know, that really made me realize that I was a gamer, even back then. Now, when I say gamer, I know there's a mental image. Now, be honest, how many of you, is this the mental image or thereabout that you get when I say that word? So this is one image, but in reality, this is the image. 52% of video game players are male, but 48% are female, and this number gets closer and closer to even split each year. Even more shocking, 17% of video game players are men under 18, but 36% are women over 18. Women over 18 make up the single largest gaming demographic that exists. And that's because there's just this something about games. There is something that is uniquely exciting, engaging, motivating, and that is not limited to any specific demographic. It's universal. So what is that something? Well, that's what I'd love to explore today by trying to uncover some of the ingredients of fun. So when I say ingredients, that's a specific word. And I say ingredients because when I talk to people about making games, I compare it to being a chef or a cook more than any other art form. If I'm a novelist or if I'm a filmmaker, I complete a product and I present it. I know that it has been completed exactly the way I wish. If I'm a chef, I can make the most beautiful plate of food in the world, but it doesn't matter until someone else actually eats it and experiences it. And it's the same thing with games. I can make the best game ever, but until someone actually gets hands-on with that experience, it's nothing. And so we create things in a very similar way. Without an audience, there is no product, and that's what makes games unique. So what are these ingredients? The first one that I want to talk about is reward. Reward forms the foundation of fun for us, particularly with video games. So when I say reward, the basis of it is really, I take an action, I expect a reaction. As human beings, we love this. We want to know that what we do produces results. When I take an action, I am rewarded with a response for that action that I took. This is why so many babies' games, toddlers' games, and toys are designed around creating this type of interaction, right? I shake a rattle, it makes a noise. I'm rewarded for my action. Our brains eat that up. It's how we learn and we love it. And video games do this really well. Oh, clicker. Right on the other side of that is surprise, our second ingredient. So surprise is all about what is that reaction? So what is the reward I get when I take a step? And when you combine surprise and reward, you get a very fundamental psychological principle. Does anyone know what this is? Skinner boxes? So a psychologist named Skinner did a whole bunch of tests involving pigeons in boxes with buttons. And the way it worked is he put a pigeon in the box, and if it hit the button, it got a treat. If it got a treat every time it hit the button, it would only hit the button when it was hungry, and that was it. If it had to hit the button 5 times in order to get a treat, when it was hungry, it would go to the button, it would hit it 5 times, get its treat, move on. But if it was randomly rewarded, if it was surprised with a treat, it never stopped hitting that button. And does anyone have the mental image of little old ladies playing slots? This is the exact same concept. In gaming, we call this a variable reward ratio schedule, which is basically just another name for how many times does the pigeon hit the button before a treat comes out. So in gaming, you know, if you're playing World of Warcraft or Diablo 2, you kill a boss, you kill a monster, it drops some treats. What it drops could be gold, could be a piece of cloth, or it could be a super rare, exciting item. That's the same idea. It's all the pigeon in the box, and this really excites us as human beings and as pigeons. Something else that makes up fun is challenge. We enjoy being challenged as people. Our brains like it. It's fun. This is something that in game design we call a difficulty curve. And the goal of a difficulty curve is to optimize fun by negating the negative emotions of boredom and frustration. So if you look at this graph, we've got difficulty and time. So when you're first learning how to engage with something, it's challenging. You hit a peak of challenge, but well-designed difficulty curves in well-designed games then go down a little. They encourage you. And this goes in this growing slope. And the goal is, if it didn't go up high enough, it would be boring. If it went up too fast, it'd be frustrating. And so the sweet spot of fun is this nice curve, and that's what games do very well. If you're challenged enough, you'll gain mastery. We all know that practice makes perfect, but we all also know that perfect feels great. Nothing feels better than practicing something for such an amount of time that when you do it, you're awesome at it. We love that. That is so much fun for us as people. Something else that we really enjoy is status, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. We enjoy status. We like status symbols. We like the sense that what we've done has risen us to a place of certain power that is fun for us to hold, and it's exciting. So in gaming, cooperation is also a huge amount of the fun that makes up our brains as humans. We're pack people. That's how we evolved. So when games allow us an opportunity to work together towards a goal, that's fun. We like it. Our brains eat it up. And right on the opposite side of that is competition. We also like competing against each other. This is sort of a cliche of competition, Call of Duty. It's a very competitive game. But if you look at it demographically and you imagine who's playing this game, the typical Call of Duty player is a young guy, usually between the ages of 13 and 16. This player doesn't feel a ton of control over their life. If they're given an opportunity where they can go head-to-head with someone else, gain a sense of dominance, a sense of competition, that is fun for them. But competition doesn't just play out in games like Call of Duty. It plays out in games like Tiny Tower or Farmville. And in this way, it plays out through a concept called benign envy. So benign envy is like when your friend gets a really great new pair of shoes or a really nice car. You're not maliciously jealous of them, but you have sort of a benign envy. It's sort of a friendly, oh, I kind of wish I had that. And inspiring benign envy in others is motivational, and it's kind of fun, and it's where a lot of these games get some of their appeal. Another element of fun is collection. As human beings, we like to fill in blanks. We like to check boxes. We like to see a vast open world and fill in the rest of that map. We've been doing this for generations in so many different ways. Species identification, stamp collecting, Pokemon, these are all the same things. It's the same element of fun, of filling in blank spaces with things we know. In the same way, construction is a great fun ingredient. We like this idea that we can create something extraordinary out of nothing. It's very satisfying and very fun. Minecraft. All the appeal of Minecraft, or at least a good part of it, comes from this ability to go into an empty environment and build extraordinary things just with your own will and time. The final ingredient that I'd love to talk to you about is identity. So identity is all about defining ourselves through specification. We like to do this as people. When you create an avatar in a game, that's what it's about. It's about picking out little individual features and building an identity from that. But that's the same type of fun we get when we take Myers-Briggs personality tests, or we look at Freudian analysis, or hell, it's the reason why I take what superhero would you marry quizzes online. It's all that same sense of, oh, this is a little something about me. This is a little specific thing that defines who I am. So let's take these ingredients and make some recipes. Here's a recipe for Candy Crush. Who's played Candy Crush or knows what it is generally? Maybe show of hands a little bit here. Few people. So with Candy Crush, anyone who's experienced it knows that reward is a huge factor. Anytime you touch anything in Candy Crush, it sparkles, it smiles, it excites. And so that sense that I'm doing something and there's a result, that's rewarding. There's a huge amount of slot machine factors that go into Candy Crush. When new candies come down from the sky, you don't know what they're going to be. They could make an awesome combo, they could not. That's that surprise factor that's playing into the fun picture. A ton of energy and effort goes into designing the difficulty curve of Candy Crush. About a year ago, Candy Crush reported making $9 million a day. And they're doing this because of a very well-designed difficulty curve. There's about 1,000 levels of Candy Crush, and each one is a little harder, maybe a little easier, doing that curve to keep you engaged. And anytime you complete a level, you check it off. There's 1,000 little boxes to check off, and that's where collection comes in. I know I would have stopped playing it a long time ago if I didn't feel like I was working towards something, that I was filling in these blanks. So let's look at another game. Minecraft. Who knows Minecraft? A few hands again. So as I said, construction is a huge part of the appeal of Minecraft, but I would say that collection is even more of the appeal. In Minecraft, you're presented with a huge open world that you have yet to discover. Anytime you turn a corner and see something new, you're filling in blank space. Anytime you dig in the earth and find a new mineral, filling in blank space. And when you make a tool with that mineral, it's more collecting. It's incredibly fun and incredibly satisfying. When you come around those corners and find those new things, that's a surprise. You don't know what you're going to encounter. It's surprising. It's exciting. It's fun. And each corner is a little bit more difficult. There's challenge. But if you overcome all the challenges, you have a sense of mastery, that you have acquired a skill and you have mastered this game. And that puts together that picture of fun. Oops, let me go back here. So something a little simpler, words with friends. This could apply to any game like this, Scrabble, letterpress. Huge part of the appeal here is competition. It's you against another player. The other big piece is mastery. You're not getting harder levels when you play Scrabble. You're working with the same tools from day one, but you're getting better and better at using them. So that's where you get a sense of acquiring a skill and gaining a mastery. And that's what makes it so fun. And there's always a little bit of surprise, because you never know what letters you're going to get, and you never know what the other person will do. Interestingly enough, Call of Duty has a kind of similar shape. So Call of Duty is also mostly competition. It's you against someone else. But what Call of Duty lets you do is that pack energy. You can compete as one team against another team. Cooperation. Each time you do this, you're getting better and better at something, mastery, and when you get better and better, you earn badges, worldwide rankings, status symbols, and that completes that picture. To wrap up sort of a grand Mac Daddy recipe of fun here, some people have claimed that World of Warcraft is as addicting as heroin. I'm not going to say this is necessarily the reason, but I certainly don't think that it hurts. So when you start World of Warcraft, the first thing you do is make an identity. With that identity, you go on to compete in challenges, to gain mastery. Anytime you go to a new part of the map, you discover a new boss, a new enemy, something else to fight. That's surprise. Anytime you interact, there is a sense of reward. When you kill enemies and pick up items, when you buy items from friends, you are collecting. You are filling out a set. You can work with friends to defeat obstacles, or you can go head-to-head against friends. Cooperation, competition. And all of this comes together to form a status, a rank, and a level, and that's really satisfying. Well, so what? So these are video games, right? It's all very interesting. Well, the truth is, this isn't about video games. This is about psychology. We're not talking about game devices. We're talking about motivational tools. These are psychological constructs that exist within us, and we don't have to use them just for games. What if we use them for education, for government, for cultural awareness, brain injury, Alzheimer's? We can take these psychological devices that exist inside of us and we can use them, because this is about understanding what makes us tick, about understanding why games have that something and how we can make use of it. Because when you understand, you can accomplish. You can make use of things in new ways. There's a humility to making games like there is with making food. You're making something that is totally for someone else, that allows you to step back. And when you step back, you learn that it's about making what others want to do, not what you want them to do. I think that if we recognize this as a society, we can build a future of natural inclination, not demanding interaction. A society where any problem we want to solve, we go about by asking, what would make people just want to do this? Because of psychology, because of the tools we have, not do this or else. Because why not? If we can understand, if we can do this, why not give it a shot and see what happens? So go out there. Make some fun. Thank you.